Hi there, Sue here. Today I'm going to talk about oxalates and oxalate dumping and my history with oxalates and why it's been such a big issue for me. So if I dive back into my history, I have eaten a really high oxalate diet probably for a lot of my life. So Sally Norton talks about that. I'm actually in the process of reading Sally's book right now, so Toxic Superfoods. I'll put a link to that below this video. Sally talks about how she's got a 2 degrees, I think, one in nutrition and one in something else to do with health. I can't remember what the other one is, but she talks about how she was vegetarian and vegan and eating all the superfoods and all the rest of it, all the things that are supposed to be healthy, and her health was declining. That's been me as well. So in recent years, the last couple of years, hubby and I, so hubby's 5 years older than me, and his diet's always been a bit different to mine, but similarities, and have been getting more similar as the years have gone on, as he just follows suit with what I'm doing, which is probably to his detriment. Has been. But, in the last couple of years, we'd quite often say, how come we eat so clean and so healthy, and yet we're sore, we've got aches and pains, we've got all these bloody things going on. He's got stuff going on his skin, and I've got weight issues and thyroid issues and stuff. It's like, how come we eat way cleaner than most people we know, and a way healthier diet, supposedly, and yet we've got all this stuff going on? Oxalates is the answer. So if I start at the beginning, when I was a kid, my dad didn't like meat. He was heading into becoming a vegetarian. And so consequence of that was, and money probably as well, was that we didn't eat lots of meat as kids. We filled up on potatoes and bread and puddings like custard and sago, things that were full of sugar, and fruit and all that sort of stuff. And we're forced to eat stuff like silver beet, lots of vegetable soups with beans and split peas and things in. And rice risotto, those sorts of things, out of a packet. And I loved them as a kid, like especially the stuff out of the packet, the rice risotto and the soup mixes that we did with all the split peas and things. I adored those foods, and so I ate plenty of them. And they are healthy, supposedly. My parents were doing what they thought was best, as we do as parents. My kids were brought up on lots of that stuff as well. We also took vitamin C, and most of my friends didn't even know what vitamin C was. But because my dad was kind of fairly into the whole health scene and looking at all the vegetarian stuff and all the information, reading books and things, we had vitamin C tablets. So they were little, like sometimes they were like this big, sometimes they were smaller ones, very sweet, like lollies. And I would, when no one was around, take handfuls of those, chew them all down, because they were just like eating sweets. So mountains of vitamin C. Now vitamin C becomes oxalate in the body. And then with lots of fruit and things like kiwi fruit, we ate quite a bit of kiwi fruit, and kiwi fruit, especially being in New Zealand, and kiwi fruit is super, super high in oxalate. So started off on a fairly high oxalate diet with all the bread and the potatoes and the kiwi fruit and the vitamin C and everything as a kid. Then, as I got older, my diet was pretty much junk food as a teenager, and then I became a mother very young, and so I can't remember what my diet was. There was a lot of sweets and stuff like that in my diet back then, but a lot of sugar, a lot of bread, a lot of potato, and then in my 30s, when I started to get onto the real health kick. Oh no, when I was in my late 20s, when my kids were young, I was like my dad. I followed kind of the health trends. So into the margarine, the microwave oven, had one of those before most people did, and I was using soy flour to make stuff. Luckily, I didn't really like it, so I didn't do it for too long. Tried the soy flour, tried the aspartame, the sweetener stuff. Didn't like the taste of that. Loved the sugar. So thankfully, I've got an idiot in the car at the front. Thankfully, that didn't last for too long. But yeah, I feel a bit guilty about feeding my kids soy flour and baked goods and things. But anyway, yeah, so when I got into my 30s and I really started to get onto the health kick, so I quit smoking, started exercising, and gradually my diet, I became vegetarian, and then in my mid-30s became vegan. And I was actually fruitarian initially and felt really good as a fruitarian. That was only for a few months. And then my diet, I started eating more bits and pieces, but I ate massive amounts of nuts, peanuts and cashews, in particular cashews, kilos and kilos and kilos of cashews. Like, you wouldn't believe how many cashews I used to eat. And peanuts, I knew I couldn't eat as many peanuts because they'd actually make me physically ill, but I would eat them. And peanut butter. Almonds, if they were roasted, I would consume large quantities of those as well. So then I went back to being vegetarian, and then eventually started eating meat again. About 15 years ago, I started eating meat again, trying to resolve thyroid issues and things, and just health issues that were going on with me. My blood type is an O. I had the Eat for Your Blood Type books, two copies, I eventually realised. And so I made the decision to start eating meat again. So I started eating meat. When I first started eating meat again, could not get enough of it. It was interesting. I remember my dad looking at me because I had this massive steak. He was like, "That's a big steak." And I was like, "Yeah, I really need it right now." And when I started eating meat again, some things changed in my body, which let me know that I was on the right track. So this was when I was about, early 40s. Just the way that my muscles worked and things, because I was running at that stage. I was doing triathlons, I was walking in the triathlons, and then all of a sudden I could run after I started eating meat. It was like there was something changed in my muscles, and so I was kind of aware of that. So I carried on eating meat, but I would kind of swing still. I was always highly plant-based, and I would kind of swing towards raw vegan again for a little while, and then I'd kind of go back, and I'd go through these little stages. And because on the raw vegan, I was eating lots and lots of, I've always enjoyed making and inventing foods and then adjusting recipes and stuff. And so I'd make all these raw slices that were full of cacao and almonds. You're grounding up the almonds and making almond flour, and you're putting other nuts in there, and cacao and avocado and all of these things, linseed and stuff. And I would eat, and then I'd go through stages. I did a 78-day juice feast once when I had Graves' disease and settled my symptoms down. But I was drinking 3 to 4 litres a day of juices, loads of beetroot, carrot. I would do the leaves, like the beetroot leaves and stuff. Just massive amounts of oxalate and all that stuff. I now know. I have gone through stages where I went through a big long stage where buckwheat was kind of my staple grain, and so I would quite often have, for breakfast in the morning, I would have buckwheat porridge with raspberries on it. Buckwheat, half a cup of buckwheat. I think it's a half a cup. So Sally, I'll give you some numbers. Sally says in the book that the safe level of oxalate in our diets is under 250 milligrams, 250 milligrams per day is a safe level of oxalate, right? But that's going to depend on your genetics and that a wee bit as well. Some people won't handle that much oxalate, I guess. Others will. A cup of buckwheat is cooked. A cup of cooked buckwheat is 230 milligrams of oxalate. Approximate. This isn't an exact science, the whole oxalate thing, but that's approximate. 230 milligrams of oxalate per 1 cup of cooked buckwheat. So I would have a cup at least for breakfast in the morning as porridge, and then I would put raspberries on top. So raspberries, she hasn't got raspberries in here, but raspberries are high in oxalate as well. So blackberries, for example, 4 ounces is about 60 milligrams. And then, I would eat loads of other fruits and things. And then often for lunch, I might have, if I was doing one of my raw vegan kicks, I'd be eating mountains of those raw slices that had, bases made out of almonds and cacao and all those sorts of things. And then I was making smoothies with spinach. So my smoothies commonly, like almost all the time, would contain half a bag of spinach. So spinach is raw spinach, 1.5 cups is 450 milligrams of oxalate. So that's just in 1.5 cups. I would put at least that, probably 2.5 cups into a smoothie, because like when I make a smoothie, I don't make one glass. I make half a bloody blender full and drink like 2 glasses of the stuff. And so I'm putting that in, and I'm putting a big heaped or 2 big heaped tablespoons of or dessert spoons of cacao. And then I'm putting in raspberries, and I'm putting in some almonds or almond butter, and or some cashews, which are also super high in oxalate. And so she says it's not uncommon for a green smoothie containing spinach and cacao and raspberries and stuff to be 1,000 milligrams or more of oxalate. Fatal doses of oxalate, because oxalate is a poison, and so fatal doses of oxalate have been 3,000 or 4,000 milligrams for some people. They've landed themselves in hospital and died or nearly killed themselves. So this oxalate is a poison, and if your body can't manage what you're putting into it, it builds up in the tissues. So I've had some really bizarre symptoms, which I think have been to do with oxalate. Just lots of aches and pains, and I've got like lipomery, lumpy stuff in my soft tissue and in my fat, like in my belly, and it's been there for like 11 years. I've got some funny itchy little things on my shins that have been there now for 6 years. They're gradually clearing up, but they've been there for 6 years. And the most recent thing that I just could not work out what it was that my face, the last 2 summers, not this summer, but the last 2 summers, my face would burn so easily when I was in the sun. It would only take like 5 or 10 minutes and my face would be scarlet. And so I've never been like that. I mean, I've lived in Queensland for years, could stay out in the sun all day, not an issue. Sometimes my nose would get burned, but my face wasn't never really, well, my skin doesn't burn bad unless I get really white through the winter here in New Zealand. My skin doesn't burn really, so, well, not much. But yeah, suddenly my face is just going bright red when I'm out in the sun. And burning. It wasn't just going red, it's burning. So I'd have to wear a hat. I actually went and bought sunscreen. I never wear sunscreen. I actually went and bought sunscreen last summer because I just like, I don't know what to do with my face because it just burns. So I had thought that maybe it was seed oils, but I hardly had any seed oils in my diet. The only times that I ate seed oils was if I ate potato chips or roasted peanuts, and I had cut those out off and on, and it didn't make any difference. So I was like, why the frig is my face burning so bad? Oxalates can cause sunburn. So I'm assuming what happens is they build up somehow in your skin and cause you to burn it. And because oxalates are like the crystal, they're like little pieces of glass. So I don't know what it's doing, but it can cause sunburn. And so what I found this year was right at the beginning of summer, so I'd been on Carnivore for a few months, I was burning in patches. It was like it wasn't all over my face, it was in patches. And now I can stay out in the sun for an hour or a couple of hours. I was out there yesterday for, God, it was stinking hot. Went into town to a car event in there, and we were standing out on the road in the blistering heat for probably an hour, walking up and down, looking at cars, talking to people, and no sunburn. So I'm picking that. It's like, I don't know why your body chooses to put the oxalate where it chooses to put it, but that's obviously what that was, because it's not happening now. So that's a blessing. I'm glad to be able to go out in the sun again without my face turning into a freaking beetroot. But yeah, just one of the things that oxalates can cause. So yeah, so I'm only a little way into Sally's book at the moment, but learning lots from her. I've watched her a lot online, But yeah, I thought reading the book would be, there'd probably be way more information. It's quite a decent size than what she shares in a 1 hour video online. So if oxalates is a subject that interests you, I'll pop a link to this down below. It will be an affiliate link, my Amazon affiliate link. So if you choose to buy through that, I thank you. If not, not a big deal. But yeah, I think that this is worth reading. Oxalates, the reason I decided to make this video, I'm probably going to make more as I learn more, because it's a subject that people need to know about. I really believe that this has been perpetrated on humanity on purpose. As I've said in some videos before, I'm a conspiracy theorist from way back. I've been looking at pharmaceutical companies and the medical system and everything for years, and there's a lot of corruption in there, and a lot of people with a lot of power that are controlling the media and what gets put out to us. And when you think about it, the superfoods that have come out in the last, maybe 20 years or so, are pretty much all high oxalate foods. So your cacao and chia seeds and all the nuts and things, and the gluten free, the whole gluten free thing. Grains like spelt, for example. Like, I've been gluten free for years. Hubby still has some gluten. I was making sourdough bread for him out of spelt flour because I thought it was better, and wholemeal. That's the other thing too. When we were kids, everybody ate white bread, and then all of a sudden, wholemeal was way healthier. So people should eat brown bread, and gradually it's become more and more of a thing to put whole grains into breads and things, and pastas and stuff. They're way higher in oxalate because they've got the husk on them. So I've gone back. They have known about oxalates and the issues they cause in our bodies for about 200 years, according to Sally Norton. There's information in the medical literature, and yet no one talks about it, and doctors don't know about it. How come? So I've gone back to making white bread for hubby, sourdough, because he still wants to eat it. So I use white wheat flour because it's lower in oxalate. So yeah, it's just all of the stuff, like the foods that they've pumped out as being super healthy, are filled with this poison that's building up in our bodies and causing, like, it's a gradual thing. Like, it's, unless you go and eat a whole lot in one day, that's going to kill you. It's a gradual thing. It's going to build up and build up and build up. And so I believe that that's why we're getting all these aches and pains and all this stuff kind of going on that shouldn't have been there. It's just like it's like Sally said, the healthier I ate, the more health issues, just bizarre, random things, like I just could never achieve that health that should have been there. I mean, it's just was out of my grasp all the time, and I think that's why. So oxalates are an issue. If you want to talk about oxalates, if you've got something going on that you think might be oxalates, if you've had experiences like I have, comment, questions, ask questions below, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit the like button, share. It helps this information to rise to the top of search results, hopefully, so that people can see it, because having people's real world examples out there I think is really important, rather than just having, if you have a scientist there telling you something, that's one thing, but having somebody whose story is real and their experience is real is a whole other thing. So I believe as well that the oxalates have been a big part of my anxiety and irritable bowel issues, because the oxalates can cause leaky gut. They damage your digestive system, they damage your teeth, they damage everything, but they can damage your digestive system, which then causes histamine issues. So if you look at my other video, my most recent one, I'm talking about oxalates and histamine, and how I've worked out that that's what was causing my diarrhea, and the histamine's contributing big time to my anxiety. So the oxalates are the key in there, I believe. So yeah, so that's it for today. I think I think I've talked about everything that I was going to talk about on here. But yeah, as I said, there'll be more videos to come on oxalates. And yeah, that's it. So I'll talk to you again another day. Bye for now.